The planet Relan floated in the far edge of the galaxy, wrapped in blue mist and silence. Its people, the Avari, were a peaceful race. They lived in crystal cities built into the mountains and believed in calm hearts and quiet lives. For them, war was an ancient word and fear of humans was still alive in their stories. The Avari elders told their children that humans were dangerous, loud, restless beings who destroyed what they could not control. It was said that humans burned worlds and turned peace into dust. To most Avari, humans were a warning from history, not beings to be trusted, but not everyone on Relan agreed. Among the silent mountains, in a tall white dome filled with blinking lights, a young Avari scientist named Lyra worked alone. Her job was to listen to the stars. The dome was part of the communication network, which scanned deep space for signals, messages, or unknown voices. Every night she sat near her console, her thin fingers moving across glowing symbols. The machines hummed like quiet rain. Most days the signals were simple, radio static, trade codes from nearby colonies or drifting echoes from ancient satellites. But one night, something strange arrived. It was a voice. Lyra frowned as her screen flashed red. The signal was old, weak, and broken by static, but she could still hear the tone. It was not robotic. It was human. "This is Terran Guard. Ship down. Oxygen low. Need help." The words faded and returned like a heartbeat. Her breath caught in her chest. The message repeated once, then ended. Lyra sat frozen. Her thoughts raced. A human distress call. On the outer moon of Relan. She replayed the message again and again. The voice was tired but strong. It carried something she didn't expect, fear, not anger. The rules were clear. If a human signal ever appeared, it must be reported to the Council of Elders. The council would decide what to do. But Lyra hesitated. She remembered her teacher's stories. Humans who fought to live, who never gave up even when the stars turned against them. Could this be one of them? After a long pause, she sent the recording to the council with a short message. Possible distress call. Origin, Relan's outer moon. Source human. The council met the next morning. 12 elders sat in a circle of light. Lyra stood before them, small and nervous. The voice from the transmission played through the hall. When it ended, silence followed. Elder Tovan, who led the council, spoke first. "The humans bring war wherever they go," he said. "If one has come here, it is danger. We will not interfere. The moon will remain sealed." "But the message," Lyra tried to say. Tovan raised a hand. "No more, child. We will not risk Relan for one stranger." The others nodded. The decision was made. The human would be left to fate. Lyra bowed her head, but her heart felt heavy. She left the chamber quietly, yet her mind could not rest. That night, while others slept, she looked again at the recording. She watched the coordinates on her screen, so close, just a short flight away. Her thoughts whispered to her. If you were the one calling for help, wouldn't you hope someone was listening? She made her choice. At dawn, Lyra prepared a small shuttle from the research bay. The craft was silver and shaped like a tear, made for short-distance flight. She loaded basic supplies, medical gel, food packs, and an energy scanner. Her heart pounded as she entered the coordinates. She wasn't allowed to leave without council approval, but she did it anyway. As the shuttle lifted from the dome, she looked back at Relan's calm sky. She knew she was breaking the law, yet something inside told her this was right. The moon appeared ahead, a gray world covered in dust and rock. Her scanner beeped softly, tracking the signal. The closer she came, the stronger the reading grew. After half an hour, she saw it, a crash site. Metal pieces scattered across the surface, smoke still rising. The wrecked ship was half buried in the sand. Her hands trembled as she stepped outside, her boots sinking slightly into the cold soil. The wind was sharp and her breath fogged inside her helmet. She moved toward the ship, careful and slow. The name painted on the side was faded, but she could still read it. TGS Valiant, Terran Guard Ship. She entered through a broken hatch. The air smelled of burnt metal. Sparks flashed from broken wires. The lights inside were dim, but she could see movement. A human lying on the floor near the cockpit. He was alive. Lyra's pulse quickened. His suit was torn, his face pale beneath the helmet glass. Blood, dark and strange to her eyes, stained his sleeve. His breathing was rough. For a moment, fear froze her. All her people's warnings came rushing back. Humans are dangerous, unpredictable. But when she looked closer, she saw something else. Exhaustion, not threat. Her heart softened. She knelt beside him, placing her glowing palm over his chest. The medical gel from her pack shimmered as it touched his wound. Slowly, his breathing steadied. Minutes passed before his eyes opened. They were gray and clear like the sky before a storm. He looked at her in confusion, then whispered weakly, "You're not human?" Lyra hesitated, unsure if he would panic. But he only smiled faintly, then lost consciousness again. She worked quickly, stabilizing him with her supplies. Once he was safe enough to move, she dragged him out of the wreckage and into her shuttle. She strapped him into the passenger seat and checked his oxygen. "Just hold on," she said softly, though he couldn't hear her. "You'll be all right." She took the shuttle to a nearby cave system, hidden from Raylene's satellites. It would serve as a secret shelter until she decided what to do next. Inside the cave, she built a small heater and placed the human beside it. The warmth filled the space, glowing against the dark stone. As she sat nearby, watching him rest, her thoughts were a storm. She had done something forbidden. If the council found out, she could be banished. But when she looked at him, fragile, wounded, yet still breathing, she couldn't regret it. Hours passed. The human woke again. This time he could speak more clearly. "Where am I?" he asked slowly. "You are safe," Lyra said, her voice calm. "You crashed on the moon of Raylen." He tried to sit up, wincing. "You saved me?" "Yes," she said. "But you must rest," he nodded weakly. "Names?" "Ryan." Lyra hesitated before replying. "Lyra." They sat in silence for a moment. The air was tense yet peaceful. Ryan studied her. Her shimmering skin, her gentle eyes, the way her voice carried calm. "You're not afraid of me?" he asked softly. Lyra looked down. "I was," she admitted. "My people fear humans. They think you bring destruction." Ryan gave a tired laugh. "Some of us do, but not all." His words stayed in her mind. There was honesty in his voice, something she didn't expect. When he fell back asleep, Lyra stepped outside the cave. The stars above the moon looked brighter than ever. She thought of her home on Raylen and the council who would never understand why she had helped a human. But deep inside, something new stirred, curiosity and a quiet sense of connection. Maybe the stories had been wrong. Maybe understanding began not with trust but with courage. As the night spread across the moon, Lyra looked at the distant planet glowing in the sky and whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning." The night on the moon was long and silent. The wind carried a faint echo that moved through the rocky surface like a whisper from the stars. Inside the hidden cave, Lyra sat beside the small heater, watching the soft orange light reflect on the human's armor. Ryan, the human soldier, was still weak but breathing more evenly now. The deep cut on his arm had sealed after Lyra's medical treatment. His breathing no longer sounded painful, and color was slowly returning to his face. Lyra leaned closer, her silver eyes studying him with quiet wonder. She had never seen a human before. His face looked stronger, rougher than any of Ari's, yet there was a strange calmness there even in sleep. His short dark hair, the lines on his face, the scars on his hands, everything about him spoke of a life lived in motion, a life built from struggle. For hours she listened to the faint rhythm of his heartbeat. It was louder and faster than an Avari's, as if it carried a fire inside. When morning came, Ryan stirred again. His eyes opened slowly, blinking at the warm glow of the heater. He looked confused for a moment, then focused on her face. "You stayed?" he asked, his voice rough but steady. "Yes," Lyra said softly. "You were hurt. You needed rest." He sat up a little, leaning on the stone wall. "You helped me." "Even though I'm human." Lyra looked down, unsure what to say. "You were in danger," she replied after a pause. "I couldn't leave you to die." Ryan smiled faintly. "That's not what your people would have done, right?" She hesitated again. "My people fear humans. They think you bring only destruction." He gave a quiet laugh. "They're not completely wrong. We've made mistakes. But not all of us want to fight." The word stayed in her mind. His voice wasn't proud or angry. It carried something else, something honest. Lyra handed him a small pack of nutrient gel. "Eat slowly," she said. "Your body needs energy." Ryan looked at the glowing blue gel and raised an eyebrow. "Doesn't look like any food I've seen." "It will heal you faster," she explained. He smiled again. Then I'll trust you. He ate without complaint, though his face showed clear surprise at the strange taste. Sweet, he murmured, but not bad. Lyra watched him quietly. She could feel her heart beating faster than usual, a mix of curiosity and nervousness. She had studied hundreds of species in her research, but never like this. Never sitting beside one, breathing the same air, hearing a voice that once came only from myths. As time passed, they began to talk more. Ryan told her small things, about his world, about the Terran Guard, and the mission that brought him here. He had been part of a rescue team sent to find missing explorers near the edge of the galaxy. Their ship was hit by debris from a meteor storm and they lost control. The others didn't survive the crash. He was the only one left. I thought it was the end, he said quietly. I sent a distress signal, but I didn't think anyone would hear. Then you came. Lyra's gaze softened. I almost didn't. The council forbade us to answer. They said humans are a threat. He nodded slowly. They're not wrong to be careful. We've hurt worlds before, but not this time. I was just trying to help my own people. His words carried a weight that Lyra could feel. For a moment, neither spoke. Only the faint hum of the heater filled the cave. After a while, Ryan looked around the cave, curious. This place, how did you find it? It is an old research shelter, Lyra said. We used it years ago when studying the moon's minerals. I remembered it was hidden under the rock hills. Ryan nodded. Smart, keeps us out of sight. Lyra tilted her head. Out of sight from who? He looked at her seriously. From your people, maybe. Or anyone else who doesn't like humans. Her chest tightened. He was right. If the council found out she had hidden a human, the punishment would be harsh. But she pushed the thought away. For now, he needed her help. Later that day, while Ryan rested, Lyra stepped outside the cave. The pale light of the moon touched her face as she stared at the distant blue planet in the sky. Rayla. Her home. She knew she couldn't stay here forever. The council would notice her absence. They would send search drones soon. Her heart felt heavy. Helping Ryan was the right thing, but it might cost her everything. Still, she whispered to herself, I will not regret saving him. She turned back toward the cave. As she entered, she heard a faint beeping sound. Ryan's broken wrist communicator, which she had placed on a rock, was flashing weakly. What is that? She asked. Ryan looked up, alert. My distress signal. It must have restarted on its own. Lyra quickly moved to the device. If it sends a signal again, others will find us, my people or yours. Ryan's eyes narrowed slightly. Then we better shut it off. Either side will make this easy. She hesitated for a moment, then touched a glowing button on the side of the device. The light went dark. Ryan gave her a grateful nod. You didn't have to do that. I don't want anyone to find you yet, she said softly. You're not ready, he smiled faintly. You're protecting me. A human. Her cheeks turned a pale shade of blue, the Avari sign of shyness. Maybe, she said quietly. But do not tell anyone. Ryan laughed lightly, his voice echoing off the stone. Your secret's safe. Days passed. Ryan grew stronger. He started walking around the cave, helping Lyra repair her small shuttle and gather supplies from the wreck. They worked side by side, speaking more freely now. He told her stories of Earth, the wide oceans, the cities that touched the clouds, the forests that still sang with wind. Lyra listened with bright eyes. She had seen images of Earth before, but hearing it from a human made it feel alive. Your people live so fast, she said once. Always chasing, always fighting, always moving forward. Ryan chuckled. That's true. Sometimes we move too fast, but it's what keeps us alive. Lyra nodded slowly. My people are the opposite. We stay still for too long. Maybe that's why we fear you, because you remind us of what we left behind. Ryan looked at her thoughtfully. Maybe both our kinds have something to learn from each other. She smiled slightly. Maybe. They spent hours like that, sharing stories, repairing equipment, and learning. The fear that once sat in Lyra's heart was fading. She no longer saw him as a danger. Instead, she saw him as something new, a mirror that showed her courage she didn't know she had. One evening, as the stars began to glow outside the cave, Lyra picked up a faint sound through her handheld scanner. A sharp, rhythmic pulse, too regular to be natural. Her stomach tightened. She knew that sound, a search drone. Ryan saw her expression change. What is it? They are searching for me, she said quietly. The council must have sent them. He stood tense. Can they detect us here? Not easily, she said. But if they get close enough, yes. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Then we need a plan. Lyra nodded, her mind racing. The cave blocks most energy signals. If we stay deep inside and keep the power low, they might not see us. Ryan moved quickly, turning off the heater and dimming the lights. The cave fell into quiet darkness. Only the soft blue glow of Lyra's skin remained, casting gentle light across the stone walls. For an hour, they waited in silence. The sound of the drone grew louder, then began to fade. Lyra released a slow breath. It's moving away. Ryan smiled faintly in the dim light. Looks like we're safe for now, but Lyra didn't smile. Her thoughts were troubled. The drone would report her location soon enough, and the council would come next. She looked at Ryan, who was calmly checking his armor, still half broken but shining faintly in the blue light. In that moment, she realized something she hadn't before. She no longer feared him. What she feared now was losing the fragile bond that had begun between them. Outside, the stars shimmered above the silent moon. Inside the cave, two beings from different worlds sat side by side, an alien who broke her laws, and a soldier who had lost his world. And for the first time in Raylene's long history, a bridge of trust had begun to form where fear once lived. Lyra looked toward the dark sky and whispered softly, "Let them come. I will not give him up." The galaxy was changing, and neither of them knew how much. The next few days passed quietly, but the silence felt heavier than before. Lyra and Ryan worked to repair his damaged suit and fix the shuttle's old communication system. Yet deep in their hearts, both knew that peace could not last. Outside, the moon's surface remained calm and pale, but in orbit above Raylene, a fleet of Avari search drones moved like silver stars across the sky. The Council of Elders had finally noticed Lyra's long absence. Inside the council chamber, Elder Tovin sat at the center, his eyes sharp with suspicion. Around him, glowing screens showed maps of the moon and the faint energy trails of a forbidden shuttle launch. She left without permission, one of the guards reported. We traced her flight path to the outer moon. Tovan's face turned serious. She knew the law. No Avari is allowed to contact humans. Find her immediately. Another elder asked softly. And if she has made contact? Tovan's voice was cold. Then she will return in chains, and the human will be studied. On the moon, unaware of the council's growing anger, Lyra was watching Ryan test his repaired suit. He moved slowly under the moonlight, the faint gravity making each step lighter. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Better," he said, tightening the straps on his armor. "Still missing power, but at least I can move again." She nodded, her silver eyes calm but thoughtful. "We can't stay here much longer. They will come for me soon." Ryan paused, looking at her. "Then we'll leave together." Lyra hesitated. "If they catch you, they will not listen. They will think you came to harm us." "Then we'll make them see the truth," he said firmly. Lyra wanted to believe him. His words carried a strength she didn't have. Humans, she thought, always spoke like they could move mountains, even when standing on broken ground. That night, as they sat near the small fire heater, Ryan looked at the stars and asked, "Why do your people hate us so much?" Lyra was quiet for a moment before answering. "Because they remember. Long ago, when the Avari still traveled between worlds, humans were beginning to expand through the stars. We watched as your wars burned whole colonies. We feared that one day you would find us too." Ryan looked down. "That sounds like us, all right. We're good at fighting, not so good at peace." "But you are different," she said softly. "You saved lives. You tried to rescue others." He gave a sad smile. "Didn't save anyone this time." "You survived," Lyra replied. "That means your story isn't over." Her words made him look at her differently. There was warmth in his eyes now, the kind of warmth that spoke of understanding. The next morning, Lyra's scanner beeped again, this time sharply. Ryan turned toward her. "What is it?" Her face paled. "A drone. Very close." Ryan grabbed his helmet. "How close?" "Too close," she said. They found the wreck. Within minutes, a faint humming filled the air. Outside the cave, a silver sphere hovered in the distance, scanning the rocks with beams of blue light. Lyra's heart raced. "We must hide." They crouched deeper inside the cave, turning off every source of heat and light. The drone moved slowly across the valley. its sensors sweeping from side to side. Ryan watched it carefully. "Can it see through stone?" "Not well," Lyra whispered. "But if it detects life signs, it will report." The humming grew louder, echoing through the cave walls. For a long, tense minute, neither of them moved. Then just as suddenly, the sound began to fade. Lyra exhaled in relief. "It's leaving." Ryan stood slowly. "They know someone is here now. It's only a matter of time before they send more." Lyra nodded. "You're right. We have to move." They packed what little they had, food packs, medical gel, and a small energy cell. Lyra guided him toward a narrow tunnel that led out of the cave. The tunnel opened into a valley filled with soft blue mist. "We can reach the old launch platform from here," she said. "It's hidden under the cliffs." Ryan looked at her in surprise. "You're serious? You're helping me escape?" She met his eyes. "Yes, I can't let them take you," he didn't argue. He just nodded and followed her. Hours later, as they made their way through the rocky valley, the sky above the moon filled with distant lights, Avari patrol ships entering orbit. Lyra stopped to look up. "They are coming faster than I thought." Ryan touched her shoulder gently. "We'll make it. Lead the way." His calm voice steadied her nerves. They continued through the uneven terrain, each step echoing softly in the thin air. When they finally reached the cliffs, the old launch platform appeared, a forgotten structure half buried in rock. Its metal was covered with dust and age, but it still looked solid. "This is it," Lyra said. "If we can power it, it can take us to orbit." Ryan examined the controls. "I can handle the flight if we get it running." "Can your power cell do it?" "It should," she said. "But once we start, the Council will detect the energy burst." Ryan gave a small grin. "Then let's make it count." They began working quickly. Lyra connected her energy cell to the old systems while Ryan adjusted the manual thrusters. The platform groaned as old circuits came to life. Suddenly, a bright flash lit the sky above them, a drone descending fast. "They found us," Lyra cried. Ryan grabbed her arm. "Get behind me!" The drone hovered just a few meters away, scanning them with a bright beam. A metallic voice echoed in the air. "Lyra of Rillen, you have violated Council law. Step away from the human." Lyra's heart pounded. She knew resistance was useless, but she also knew surrender would mean Ryan's death or imprisonment. Ryan whispered, "Can you overload the drone's scanner?" Lyra thought quickly. "Maybe if I connect my signal pad to its field." "Do it," he said. "I'll distract it." Before she could protest, Ryan picked up a broken metal bar from the ground and threw it toward the drone. The bar hit its side, causing it to turn sharply toward him. The scanner light flashed red. Lyra rushed forward, pressing her pad against a nearby rock where the scanner beam hit. Sparks flew. The light blinked wildly before the drone suddenly went dark. Its systems fried. They both stood there, breathing hard. Ryan looked at her and smiled faintly. "That worked." Lyra managed a small laugh. "You humans are too brave sometimes," he shook his head. "Just stubborn." But the moment of peace didn't last. From above, 3 more drones appeared, moving in formation. Behind them, a larger ship descended, the symbol of the Avari Council glowing on its hull. Lyra stared in shock. "It's the Council's cruiser." Ryan clenched his fists. "They brought the whole fleet for one human?" "For one who broke their fear," Lyra said softly. Within minutes, bright lights surrounded them. A beam of blue light scanned the valley and a voice echoed from the ship. "Lyra of Raylene, surrender. The human will be taken under protection." "Protection," Ryan muttered. "That's one way to say prison." Lyra looked at him, her eyes full of conflict. "If I surrender, they might let you live." Ryan shook his head. "No, they'll study me like an animal." "You said it yourself." Lyra's hands trembled. She could feel fear and hope battling inside her. "I won't let them take you," she said finally. He looked at her in surprise. "You'll fight your own people for me?" Lyra took a deep breath. "Not to fight them. To show them they are wrong." Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then let's survive this first." The launch platform roared as the engines came alive. The ground shook beneath them. The cruiser above began to charge its energy net, trying to trap them before they could rise. "Hold tight," Ryan shouted, taking control of the manual lift. The platform lifted into the air with a burst of light, racing upward through dust and smoke. Beams of blue energy shot from the cruiser, narrowly missing them. Lyra focused her power through the ship's core, feeding it more energy. "Almost there." One of the beams grazed their side, shaking the entire platform. Sparks filled the cockpit and alarms rang loudly. Ryan gritted his teeth, forcing the controls steady. We're not stopping now. As they broke through the upper clouds of the moon, the cruiser fell behind. Lyra's energy reading spiked, showing they had escaped the capture zone. They looked at each other, tired, shaken, but alive. Lyra whispered, "We made it." Ryan nodded, smiling faintly. Together. But below them, the Council's ship turned back toward Raylan. Elder Tovin watched the escape trail on his screen, his expression cold and unreadable. "Prepare the Council Hall," he said. "Lyra will return, and when she does, she will answer for what she has done." The wind over the Raylan Sea was cold that night, carrying with it the soft glow of twin moons. Lyra stood on the cliffside with her travel pack tight against her chest. The waves below hit the rocks with deep rhythm, as if the whole planet was whispering warnings to her. She knew what she was about to do was against every Avari rule, but she also knew that if she didn't, Ryan would not survive the next sunrise. In the cave near the old launch station, Ryan sat beside the dim light of a broken console. His uniform was torn and his arm wrapped in makeshift bandages. Even after days of recovery, he looked tired, but his eyes still had strength. When Lyra entered, he looked up quickly, hope flashing across his face. "You came back," he said quietly. "I said I would," Lyra replied, keeping her voice low. "But we have little time. The Council knows everything. They will send guards to take you." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Then we move tonight." Lyra nodded and handed him a small pack. Inside were food capsules, a water sphere, and an old Avari flight key, a smooth crystal with faint blue lines pulsing through it. "This will unlock a small shuttle in the launch station," she said. "It's old, but it can reach orbit." Ryan stared at her in silence for a moment. He understood what this meant. She was giving up everything for him. "Lyra," he said slowly, "if we leave, your people will call you a traitor." "I already am," she whispered. "I helped a human. That is enough for them." Ryan rose and rested a hand gently on her shoulder. "Then we both fight for something bigger than rules." They moved through the narrow tunnels, the air filled with the sound of the sea. The cave opened near the edge of the launch field, an area that had been silent for years. Once it was used to send supply ships to nearby moons. Now it was nothing more than a graveyard of forgotten machines. Metal platforms were covered with moss and salt, while old shuttles rested under tarps. Lyra led Ryan toward the smallest one, a narrow-winged craft half buried in sand. "This one," she said. "I checked it earlier. It still has some power." Ryan smiled faintly. "You think of everything." She gave him a quick glance. "I think too much, that's the problem." They both climbed inside. The air inside the shuttle was stale, and the lights flickered as Ryan switched on the control panels. "Still works," he muttered. "Barely." Lyra sat beside him, her hands moving across the glowing symbols on the main console. "Power cells. Damaged, but we can reroute through secondary core. Fuel levels, 43%. Ryan adjusted the pilot seat, testing the manual controls. "That's enough to reach orbit. Maybe the outpost beyond Raylan." Before they could start the launch sequence, a deep alarm echoed across the field. A red beam of light swept over the sand, and metallic footsteps followed. "They're here," Lyra said. A group of Avari guards appeared at the far end of the station, holding pulse staffs that shone like blue fire. Their leader's voice rang through a speaker. "Lyra of Raylan, you have violated council order. Step away from the human and surrender." Ryan looked at her, ready for a fight. "What do we do?" Lyra took a deep breath. Her mind raced. She had only one choice, to use her gift. The Avari had a rare ability to control light through their skin. Lyra had learned it when she was young, but never used it beyond simple research. Now she had to use it to save them both. "Stay behind me," she whispered. Ryan wanted to stop her, but before he could speak, Lyra stepped out of the shuttle and raised her hands. The air shimmered around her, and a bright white glow spread from her palms. The guards hesitated as their eyes filled with confusion. For a moment, they saw not one figure but dozens of Lyras, moving in different directions. "It's an illusion," Ryan realized. Using her power, Lyra created false images of herself running toward the cliffs and across the sand. The guards spread out, trying to chase them. The leader shouted orders, but his voice was lost in the chaos of flickering light. Lyra's energy began to fade. Her hands trembled. Ryan ran to her, catching her before she fell. "You're pushing too hard," he said. "Just start the engines," she said weakly. He carried her back into the shuttle and hit the ignition. The old craft shook as the engines roared to life. Dust and sand flew into the air. The guards turned too late. The shuttle's thrusters lifted it off the ground in a burst of blue flame. They shot upward into the sky. Below, the launch field disappeared into fog. Inside the cockpit, Lyra's breathing was shallow. Ryan held her hand tightly. "You did it. We're clear." Her eyes fluttered open. "For now. But the council will follow." Ryan checked the radar. "Let them." "I won't let them take you." For a long moment they sat in silence, the hum of the engines filling the cabin. The stars above Rylene shone brighter than Lyra had ever seen. "Do you ever regret coming to our moon?" she asked softly. Ryan shook his head. "No, if I hadn't crashed, I wouldn't have met you. You showed me that peace still exists in the galaxy." Lyra looked out the window at the endless black sky. "Peace," she whispered. "Maybe it begins when fear ends." Suddenly, the control panel beeped, a signal flashing red. Ryan leaned forward. "They launched patrol drones. 3 of them. Fast ones." Lyra's eyes widened. "They will shoot us down before we leave the atmosphere." Ryan gritted his teeth and pulled the controls. "Hold on." The shuttle dived sharply, then spun upward at full thrust. Plasma trails from the drones streaked across the darkness. Lyra rerouted power from the ship's lights to the shield system, and the shuttle shook under the pressure. "Shields at 40%. She shouted. "Good enough," Ryan said, pushing the throttle. The engines screamed as they broke through the upper clouds. The stars above seemed closer now. The drones kept firing, bright blue energy blasts lighting up the night. One hit the side of the shuttle, sending sparks through the cabin. Lyra fell forward, catching herself on the console. "Structural damage," she said. "Left engine overheating." Ryan looked determined. "Then we go faster." He switched to manual control and guided the shuttle through a narrow gap between 2 burning drones. Lyra rerouted the last of the energy to the thrusters. The shuttle shot forward like a comet. A bright flash followed. The pursuing drones lost them as the craft crossed into orbit. Silence returned. The stars now surrounded them, vast and endless. Ryan leaned back in his seat, breathing hard. "We made it." Lyra looked at him with a tired smile. "You're impossible." "Soldier training," he said with a weak grin. "We don't give up." Her laugh was soft but full of life. "Maybe that's what makes humans dangerous. And beautiful." Outside the window, Raylan shrank into a small glowing sphere. For Lyra, it was not just a world. It was her whole life left behind. She pressed her hand to the glass. "Goodbye," she whispered. Ryan looked at her. "You don't have to say goodbye forever. One day they'll understand." "Maybe," she said. "But for now, I must learn what it means to be free." He nodded slowly. "And you won't be alone in that." The stars stretched ahead of them, and the old shuttle moved toward the distant glow of a human outpost. Behind them, Rellen's light faded into darkness. Ahead, a new world waited, unknown, dangerous, full of hope. For the first time in her life, Lyra didn't feel afraid. She felt alive. The shuttle hummed steadily as it traveled through the cold black of space. Stars stretched like threads of silver across the endless void, and Raylan was a distant blue dot fading behind them. Inside, Lyra and Ryan sat in silence, both exhausted, both alert. They had escaped the moon, but the galaxy was vast and danger could still find them. Ryan looked over at her. "You've been quiet," he said softly. "Thinking about Raylan?" Lyra nodded, her silver eyes reflecting the dim light of the shuttle. "I keep thinking about the council. About my people. I broke their laws. I betrayed them." Ryan reached over, taking her hand gently. "You didn't betray them. You saved me. You made a choice because you saw what was right, not because someone ordered you to." Her heart warmed at his words. For the first time, she felt a strange sense of trust in a human. Not fear, not suspicion, just clarity. "You make it sound easy," she said, trying to smile. "It's not easy," he admitted, "but nothing worth doing ever is." Lyra looked out the small window at the stars. She had spent her life in calm observation, studying signals, charts, and history, yet none of that had prepared her for this. Standing beside a human who had lost everything, fighting for survival, sharing hope in the darkness. After several hours, they approached a small human outpost orbiting a nearby habitable planet. It was a modest station, shaped like a crescent and glowing faintly with white and blue lights. Ships moved slowly around it, docking and departing while smaller drones buzzed like bees in the thin vacuum. Ryan guided the shuttle toward an empty landing bay. "We should be safe here," he said. "They'll patch up the shuttle and us, and nobody here will question why a human is alive." Lyra studied the station as they approached. For the first time, she saw humans not as destructive forces, not as a threat, but as builders, creatures who created, repaired, and maintained life even in the emptiness of space. The shuttle docked and the bay doors opened with a soft hiss. Technicians rushed forward, scanning Ryan and the craft. Lyra followed quietly, observing everything. One of the human medics approached her. "You're not human," he said, clearly curious but not afraid. "No," Lyra said softly. "I am an Avari." The medic nodded with a small smile. "Then welcome. You've come a long way." Ryan squeezed her hand gently. "See, not everyone fears what they do not know." Inside the medical bay, Ryan lay on a bed while Lyra watched. His injuries were being treated carefully. Cuts stitched, bruises scanned, and minor fractures aligned. He winced a few times, but he was alive, breathing steadily. "You saved my life," he said quietly. "I don't know how to thank you." Lyra shook her head. "You didn't ask for my help. I had to choose to help you. That is enough." Ryan smiled faintly. "I will never forget it. And neither will I forget you." The words made Lyra's chest tighten. She had spent so long fearing humans, thinking of them as beings she could not trust. Yet now beside Ryan she realized that trust was not blind. It was earned step by step with courage and care. Days passed in the station, and Lyra began to learn about human life beyond what she had heard on Relin. Humans were curious, creative, and sometimes reckless, but they also cherished life. Ryan showed her the gardens inside the station, where plants grew under artificial sunlight. He showed her the engines, explaining how they used energy efficiently to travel long distances. "You see?" he said one day as they watched tiny green sprouts push through the soil. "Life finds a way no matter how far you go. That is what humans do too." Lyra looked around, her eyes wide with wonder. "It is beautiful," he nodded. "It is. And it is worth protecting." Her heart swelled with a feeling she hadn't understood before. Hope. She had left Relin with fear in her heart, thinking she might never return, thinking she might have made a mistake. Now with Ryan beside her, she saw that courage could create new paths, new worlds, and new beginnings. One quiet evening, as the station floated silently among the stars, Ryan and Lyra stood at the observation deck. Below them, the planet's surface glowed faintly, oceans reflecting the light of distant moons. The station's hum was soft, the only sound in the calm vastness of space. "You risked everything for me," Ryan said softly. Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes reflecting the stars. "Maybe I was meant to learn that fear ends when we see each other clearly." He smiled. "And what do you see now?" "I see life," she replied. "Not rules, not history, not fear. Life that we can touch, protect, and share." Ryan took her hand gently. "Then let's not waste it." For the first time, Lyra felt no fear of humans. She had seen the strength and resilience they carried, but she had also seen kindness, patience, and understanding. And in Ryan she had found a companion who mirrored the best of both their worlds. Weeks passed and news arrived from Relin through encrypted channels. The council had learned of her defiance and declared her a traitor. But Lyra felt no regret. She had chosen humanity not to betray her people, but to honor what she believed was right. Ryan stood beside her, offering quiet support. "They may call you a traitor, but you acted with courage. That is what matters," she nodded. "And maybe someday they will see that humans can be more than their fears." For now, though, she focused on the present. The stars, the station, and the life that lay ahead. She no longer feared the galaxy. Instead, she felt connected to it in a way she never had before. One morning, Ryan and Lyra stood on the deck together, looking at a convoy of small ships leaving the planet for distant colonies. "Do you ever wonder," Ryan said, "if all of this, the council, the war stories, the fear, is just part of learning?" Lyra smiled faintly. "I do. Maybe fear exists to teach courage. Maybe history exists to show hope. And maybe trust must be earned even between worlds." Ryan nodded. Then we are learning together. Lyra reached for his hand. Together. And as they watched the convoy drift into the unknown, she realized that the galaxy had always seen humans as dangerous. But to her, humanity was something more, a fire that could destroy or warm depending on who chose to hold it. She chose to stand beside it. The stars stretched infinitely before them. The station hummed softly, carrying life across the void. Ryan and Lyra stood together side by side, looking at the new world ahead. For Lyra, fear had ended. For Ryan, hope had been renewed. And together, they had built something stronger than any law, any council, any past mistake. A bridge between species, a bond of trust and the promise of a future where courage and compassion could shine. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but for the first time, both of them felt ready. Lyra looked at Ryan one last time before turning to the stars. Whatever comes next, we face it together. Ryan smiled, his hand in hers. Together. Above them, the stars glimmered like 1,000 tiny fires. And below, the galaxy waited for new stories to be written. Stories of courage, trust, and the power of standing beside each other, no matter the world. For the first time in her life, Lyra knew this was only the beginning.